Hello, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Michał Sieradzki, and I'm going to be your host for this session. Today's session is about digital enablement of intelligent automation, and it will be presented by Partha Panda and his guests, Henrik Weber from SAAB Group and Giovanni Leoni from Malmö municipality. We highly recommend that you call into this webinar from your mobile using local numbers provided. For best experience, please also close all your other applications for the duration of this webinar. This webinar will take approximately half an hour, including a short Q&A session at the end. And since everybody on this call has been muted, please type your questions into the GoToWebinar control panel, and we'll bring them up during the Q&A session. Now, without further ado, I will hand over to our presenter, Partha, and his guests.
Good afternoon, and welcome to this webinar on digital enablement of intelligent automation. My name is Partha Panda, and I am the practice lead for intelligent automation and process management at Capgemini, and I will be the moderator for the webinar. The focus of the webinar is on how intelligent automation can be deployed and run digitally without relevant resources and stakeholders being located in the same place, with ability to work remotely and automate remote too. The webinar is a discussion of practitioners in intelligent automation who have been there and doing it. We will be using minimal slides during the discussions only for the purpose of giving direction to our discussion. The webinar is planned for 30 minutes with Q&A after that. Now, we would like to introduce you to our guests. We have, the first guest is Giovanni Leoni, the head of automation for the city of Malmö. Giovanni, would you like to say a few words about yourself?
Sure, thanks. Thanks for being part of this session. As mentioned, I'm head of automation at the city of Malmö, and happy to join in. On a day-to-day basis, I dedicate my time in a focus upon driving automation forward, both from a strategical, tactical, and operational level. A lot of focus on RPA and to see how that can enable the liberation of time, but also with a lot of focus upon improving work environment and delivering higher quality of welfare going forward. So happy to join in today.
Thank you, Giovanni. And our next guest is Henrik Weber, who is the Digital Transformation Director of SAAB OB. Henrik, would you like to say a few words in your introduction?
Yes, sure. Thanks, Partha. So my name is Henrik Weber. I work at SAAB Group within Group IT in the role of Digital Transformation Director. In that role, I actually lead a small team of people that help the business around SAAB to digitally transform their ways of working. And in this, of course, intelligent automation is one key platform and one key component in the work we do. So we try to drive toward a lot of digital workflows, reducing manual work and increasing automation, and also enabling totally new ways of working with different types of technology components connected to digital transformation. And really happy to be here as well.
Thank you, Henrik. Thank you, Giovanni, for the introductions. We are looking forward to a great webinar of interaction. Just to mention for everybody, we in this webinar have guests coming in from to listen on to this from Norway, from Denmark, from Sweden, and I think there are some from Finland too. At the end of the session, I will put in the names of the contact persons who are the intelligent automation leads for Norway, Denmark, and Sweden and Finland, for you to reach out to them also. Now moving ahead, what exactly is intelligent automation or artificial intelligence, or in terms of the parlance, what is this about? That's always a question that gets asked to us by everybody. Well, the intelligent automation ecosystem, the way we define, is multiple components from the artificial intelligence ecosystem, which coming together in the multiple parts that you see define the ecosystem. But getting on to a little more specific, if the question comes up to what exactly is intelligent automation, how do we define it? So let's get on to the definition of it, or what we mean by intelligent automation. At every stage in interactions for you as an organization, for you, for your customers, for your organization, there are multiple interactions which happen, which we would call as human-robot interactions. In this, when you hear the word chatbots, it's where there's an interaction between a human being and a machine. Chatbots have changed. We call them conversational AI now. There are also areas around intelligent character recognition or self-learning OCR to take care of documents and data in unstructured form and manage that. This, in a nutshell, is what is called the input handling or the incoming or the interactions with an organization. The next component that we define as part of intelligent automation is what we call as process automations. Process automation is anything which deals with what we call as a back office activities for an organization, and a large part of that is what is robotic process automation. And that is a large part of activity which a lot of organizations are doing as part of intelligent automation. Now, both of these activities and some more generate a lot of data and insights within an organization. Information not converted into insights still stays only as data. And this stage where we're using the intelligence towards enabling a machine intelligence, where in this case there are AI platforms. We put AI in quotes because AI is not one technology. It's a combination or a single technology component which goes into enabling process intelligence. So in Capgemini, when we talk of intelligent automation, we have these three components which combine together and are defined as intelligent automation. Hopefully this has some meaning for you, because what we're going to do is we're going to do a small polling and ask you a few questions based on what you have seen as intelligent automation. The poll is not a very long one. It is a quick poll to understand as to where you are on your intelligent automation journey. The poll is anonymous. We will not reveal your identity. There are 3 short questions to answer. Do that. It's fun and it won't take very long. So if you are ready, the question's going to come now. May I request you to help with the polling?
Partha, I've done the polling now. I have to excuse myself. I've been on mute the whole time while talking, but we've received some great answers. Thanks everybody for the participation. And Partha, please go on with the presentation. Apologies once again.
Okay, no problems. Hopefully you've been able to do the poll, and what we will be doing is we will be showing the results to you just before closing, when we are about to take questions from all of you. So apologies, we could not put in the voiceover, but of course you could see it, and hopefully you've been able to put in your answers. Thank you. Now we will get into the main crunch of the discussion with Giovanni Leoni and Henrik Weber. So the first thing, so what we will next do is in the next 10 to 15 minutes is discuss on the core topic of digital enablement for intelligent automation with Giovanni and Henrik. So the first thing that comes to you, Giovanni, is how do you define digital enablement? What do you think? What comes to your mind when you talk of digital enablement?
What comes to mind spontaneously is that we actually start to have a focus upon the value-adding work that needs to be done, and stop having a focus upon the exact physical form in which it is done. I would say that through these times of Corona, it has become quite apparent that we need to keep on delivering high value. We need to have still a very high interaction with the organization that is quite dispersed throughout geographically, and we still need to have a very tight communication. So digital enablement is a lot about both having work being progressed and development being progressed in a continuous way, but having communication and workflow being fully in a digital form, both in terms of work meetings, documentation, communication, and having that being fully transparent and not being reliant upon the physical meeting. So I would say that is the digital enablement, but also in terms of specifically RPA, it is about kind of leveraging the possibility with the automation itself.
Okay. Henrik, what do you think? What would you define as digital enablement, and how have your organization been working around this?
Yeah, I first of all definitely agree with what Giovanni said. For me, it's really a close connection between digital enablement and digital transformation. So what we want to do is really to use technologies to enable new ways of working and digital ways of working. So for me, that's really enabling that new way of doing things through technology.
Fantastic. And now with the changing times, things have changed a lot. We have moved away from being working co-located into more digital. How have your organizations taken this now, Giovanni?
I would say that it has been quite positive in the response to it. They have been quite keen in continuing development and not being hindered of not being physically present. What I would say that has been a bit something new is that it is about being adapting to a new way of working, where one maybe usually kind of compacted everything into a physical meeting. Now it's more about preparation before, contributing with input. When having a virtual session, is about really being focused upon the questions to the open questions to be solved, and then afterwards having proper and transparent and condensed documentation to really progressing work. So I would say that it's a bit of adaptation, but in general quite positive, because they see it as being positive for us wanting to progress work, and no matter if we can meet physically or not.
Henrik, you have, as an organization, been doing this a little more digitally from earlier, but in the changing times, this has obviously been a little difficult. So how has it been for you as an organization?
Yeah, it's actually the change has not been that big for us because we're a really dispersed organization within SAAB. So we have people obviously all around the globe, even though we're centered around Sweden, but we have somewhere around 60 sites in Sweden, and we're very used to working together via our digital collaboration tools. With these new times, however, of course, we really need to take another step in those ways of working with virtual meetings and new ways of doing things. So for us, it's kind of accelerated a journey that we've been on for quite some time due to environmental factors and saving time so people don't have to travel and so on. So it's actually kind of given us some extra acceleration in the journey we've been on for quite some time. But definitely it requires new ways of doing things and challenges, especially if you want to have a workshop type discussion. Then you really need to, as Giovanni mentioned, plan things properly. You need to think about the setup of the meeting and how to do it in an efficient way with the digital tools and the virtual meeting setup you have. So it puts some extra demands on people, definitely, especially in those types of workshop or discussion type meetings.
Okay, so I think that is something which we will cover now a little more when we talk of intelligent automation and digital enablement. In our experience, a lot of intelligent automation activities at different stages, where there are 5 key components of intelligent automation that we look at as a process discovery, process analysis, the infrastructure setup, development deployment, and the maintenance. And then this has been a question that has kept coming to us in the new normal, in the new situation. Can we do it differently? Can we do it away from the way we were doing it, sitting co-located and working together? And that is the little more detailed discussion that we would like to have. Now, what we will do is, if we look at each of the core areas around, when we look at intelligent automation scale, which we have been working together towards with both of your organizations. And when we start, there are 2 main parts to it. The start of thinking on doing something at scale. One is the process discovery, and then comes the business process analysis part. And both of you, I'm sure, would agree, if this is not done right, very focused, this is the very next stages do not necessarily work out the best. And this has been typically a very connected stage with workshops, with interactions, though we know that this can be taken up with remote workshops and can be done through new set of tools for process discovery, process mining, and there have been suggestions that can we do this with combination of process discovery, process mining tools along with interaction tools. There are quite a lot of them in the market now. Now, if we look at both of them together, considering that one follows from the other, what is your view of how this can be done remotely with the help of tools, with a combination and challenges? Henrik, why don't you go ahead first in this?
Yeah, sure. I think one important step in this, and of course that's regardless if you have virtual or digitally enabled meetings or not, is to really get people to understand what RPA is. So what we've done in SAAB when we start up with a new organizational unit is to first have a session to kind of inform them and educate them about RPA and get them to think in those lines of automation and how you can use RPA in the various processes. And then have that preparation for the next step to go through the, call it, long list of processes. So I think maybe dividing it up into a little bit of a bite-sized or stepwise approach instead of maybe having a full day workshop where you run through RPA and the long list of processes and so on. So that's maybe one way to do it. And then, of course, as you mentioned, they're complementing with process mining tools and so on to get better and better, call it documentation or basis for analyzing the opportunities. So documentation of the processes or doing it with process mining tools is also an important component in that early process discovery part.
Oh, this is good input. And Giovanni, what do you think now in the new way? How can this important step can be managed?
Yes, to build on what Henrik said, a lot of good points that I can agree on, that we've seen on our side. What I would say is also a bit of shift on mindset, where maybe prior to Corona, it has been very much driven from a combined central team, where we have been, of course, augmented with Capgemini resources and some central resources, including myself, being quite active in driving these physical meetings or physical discussions progressing forward, where we have shifted it to rather really putting the different decentralized organizational parts of City of Malmö in the lead, to be able to actually lead their own discovery of processes, leading their own documentation of the processes, really putting them in the driving seat of doing it, which makes them being able to do it more on their own, while when we then meet up in a virtual form, it's a lot about guidance in how they can document it and how they can find their path forward in a good way. So we've shifted a bit of our focus because we wanted to really not being dependent upon being centrally driven, and rather really putting an enablement out in the organization to be driving this part even more on their side, creating a bit of more momentum even in times where we are it's not as easy to be doing things together, but rather kind of guiding them.
Okay, this is fantastic. This is a way where you think was being done earlier and moving on to a new way. Now, when we move ahead, if we get this in with a new way, an important part that we have seen as we build into scale is ensuring the right infrastructure setup, along with ensuring moving ahead with the development and deployment. Now, infra, depending on the specific organization and restrictions, cloud has been an option that we have seen from Capgemini, and we have introduced cloud deployments in some clients. Considering, for example, for both the organizations, cloud has not necessarily been something that could be taken up ahead with, but deployment has been done. But what do you think in the going ahead structure when we move in? And it's a faceless infra as well as a development deployment. How can this work out the best way? Giovanni, what do you think?
What I would say is it is a lot about in the current state that we are right now. What I think has been a critical success factor, it is about really being on the same page as the rest of the organization. Having a transparency in about what are the paths of communications, what are the ways of working when in terms of how we gear up the infrastructure, how do we handle change and incidents in a crystal clear way. So it has been a lot about it's fully transparent. It is also about gearing up a way of working that is also people independent. So even if we've kind of set it up in a way that we would be prepared that if any key person would need to go home the next day, the machine would just keep on working, because we would be prepared to just have a contingency plan with business going forward. Then we've been fortunate not to have that happen, but it's been a way to really build in sustainability in the ways of working. So I would say that has been kind of a key thought in terms of both deployment and infrastructure in the current state.
Perfect. And Henrik, I think a lot of things have been done, at least the development deployment on the same lines as Malmö City, a little remotely. And what do you think this can go ahead in how and what form?
Yeah, definitely. For us, being in the defense industry, we're a bit slow into cloud and those types of platforms. But even so, I think the infrastructure setup part and managing the infrastructure is maybe the easiest part when it comes to doing it digitally, because nowadays, I mean, people don't go into the server rooms and set up things. You actually connect remote and do the setup, and you share the screen with colleagues when you do the configurations, or even also in a sort of maintenance and operations mode. You do most of your work, at least we do, via the virtual tools and collaboration tools that we have. So I think that's an area where people are really used to working in a digital enabled way.
I agree. And because when we go on to the next part, that is an important part, that's the maintenance and the whole structure of holding this together. This, the way we define as doing it on scale, we have seen that in Capgemini, we have ensured that we work very comfortably in a remote way. Most of our consultants have been continuing on the work with our clients, and we believe this is absolutely possible. Hey, but this is fantastic. But thank you for that extra good insights. We've got a little time left. What we will do is we will move on to quickly on the poll responses. Can we have the poll responses, please?
Yes. So I'm presenting the first one now. So as we can see, majority of our attendees today have actually done some work with intelligent components. The number is at 72% exactly. Would you like to comment on this, or should I move on to the next response?
No, we'll move on to the next one.
And the majority of our attendees have actually used the RPA with 69%. Then we have 38% for conversational AI and 15% for the remaining two answers. And if we move to the third and final responses, it is quite divided actually. Around a quarter of us have not started yet. 17% are less than 1 year. 39% are between 1 and 2 years. And then we have also a quarter that have been doing it for more than 2 years. So very varied results, Sparta.
Thank you very much. I think this is very reflective of the market. And then, yes, thank you very much. This is very good insights that we have got, and we will get back. Now, we are almost at the close of this. I don't think we will have too much of time for any questions. And any concluding remarks from our panelists? Giovanni, a quick bite from you.
First of all, thanks for being able to join today. I think that it is important that we can just keep on doing business and keep on moving development and seeing rather to the opportunities we have in working in a fully digital and transparent way going forward. So happy to join today.
Thank you, Giovanni. And Henrik, any last comments?
Yeah, same here. Really happy to join. Interesting discussions and insights, and really just continuing on the lines of using the technology to enable new ways of working, and to use the special situation we have today to find some good opportunities from that amongst the big challenges as well. So important questions to discuss.
Thank you very much, Giovanni and Henrik, for taking your time. And this is a very good discussion. We are in agreement that we can still work remotely and work on our intelligent automation journey, continue to do it digitally, and there is no stopping that. That is an agreement that we can have. For those who have joined from different locations, please continue the connect with our intelligent automation leads in the Nordics. Those are listed up here in Sweden, Norway, Denmark, and Finland. We're very happy to answer your questions and help you continue on your intelligent automation journey digitally. Thank you very much for your time, and we hope to hear more from you.
Thank you. I'm going to close the webinar. Once again, thanks everybody for attending our webinar. We hope to see you in the future. Thank you, our guests, Giovanni and Henrik. And I wish everyone a nice day.